Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a phenomenon that is fundamentally reshaping our world. And honestly, I was completely shocked to discover just how deep this rabbit hole goes. We usually think of artificial intelligence as this boundless, intangible software just floating up in the cloud, right? But the reality is that AI has an absolute, insatiable physical hunger for memory. And right now, that hunger is sending a massive, multi-industry shockwave across the entire globe. What we're looking at is a true domino effect, and it touches literally everything from the car sitting in your driveway to national security. Let's get into it.
It's a fascinating and, well, kind of a terrifying question. What actually happens when the world's most advanced AI simply runs out of room to think? Because that is exactly where we are. We are rapidly hitting a very real, very physical bottleneck that is strictly limiting our digital progress. You see, the AI revolution isn't just a software boom anymore. It's a full-blown hardware crisis, and the stakes absolutely could not be higher.
Section 1. The AI memory bottleneck.
Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand this structural supply crisis, which, by the way, started accelerating like crazy in 2025, we have to look at the actual hardware. Standard DRAM, or dynamic random access memory, is basically the short-term working memory of the digital world. It's what lets your phone multitask, or what lets your browser gobble up all your computer's power. But AI systems, they have a strict, non-negotiable requirement for a highly specialized version called high bandwidth memory, or HBM. Think of HBM as this incredibly complex, high-octane rocket fuel that AI data centers absolutely must have to process their massive workloads. And here is where the physical reality of this bottleneck really hits you. Standard DRAM is pretty straightforward to produce, but HBM, it requires physically stacking chips on top of each other vertically, which is an incredibly complex engineering feat. Because of that complexity, producing HBM consumes roughly 3 times more manufacturing capacity, or wafer capacity, per bit compared to your standard DRAM. So as chip makers scramble to prioritize this super high-margin HBM for AI, they're creating this massive, sucking supply vacuum for the normal chips that the rest of the world desperately relies on. Section 2. The hyperscaler monopoly.
Because of that massive supply vacuum we just talked about, the tech giants, the hyperscalers, are completely rewriting the rules of how hardware is bought and sold. Think back to pre-2025. Purchasing was mostly transactional, right? Just standard supplier agreements that sort of ebbed and flowed with the market. But now, in this 2025 to 2026 era, the big AI players have completely abandoned those standard deals. Instead, they are locking in these massive, multi-billion-dollar long-term agreements, or LTAs, with some of them lasting 5 years or more. They are effectively calling dibs on all future production capacity, completely vacuuming up the limited supply, and leaving absolutely nothing for smaller players in entirely different industries.
And this brilliantly illustrates the scale we are dealing with. Just consider this. OpenAI placed a single landmark $71 billion order for Korean HBM chips just to secure memory for their future Stargate supercomputer projects. $71 billion! When hyperscalers flex that kind of unimaginable purchasing power, traditional sectors like the automotive industry or everyday consumer electronics literally cannot compete. They're just starved out of the supply chain because manufacturers are fully committed to fulfilling these massive AI contracts.
Section 3. Chipflation hits your wallet.
Now, this massive B2B tech battle doesn't just stay hidden in the data centers. It hits your wallet directly. Just let this number sink in for a second. 1,360%. That is the staggering price surge of standard DDR4 RAM since April 2025. Because manufacturers shifted all their resources over to building complex AI memory, standard memory became unbelievably scarce. And when you're in a market operating with strict physical limits, that scarcity instantly translates into explosive price increases for the basic components needed to build almost all consumer electronics.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it defines chipflation. We are seeing this play out in real, everyday economic terms. While JP Morgan estimates that overall DRAM prices will have shot up over 400% between 2024 and 2026, the real impact is hitting the retail shelf. Look at the Consumer Price Index. It's up 23% for software and accessories. The Import Price Index for computers and peripherals, up 37%. This proves, without a doubt, that these astronomical hardware costs aren't just being quietly absorbed by the tech companies. They are already being passed directly onto the consumer. Economists are actually estimating that every 10% increase in hardware costs raises core CPI and broader inflation metrics. It is a very real ripple effect.
Section 4. The Mega CapEx Scramble.
So you might be wondering, how on earth is the industry trying to fix this?
Well, if we take a look here, we are seeing truly unprecedented capital flowing from manufacturers in a desperate scramble to break this global bottleneck. We are way past normal cyclical market adjustments here. This is a full-blown emergency capacity expansion. Global AI capital expenditure is projected to hit a mind-boggling $480 billion in 2026. You've got Micron pouring $24 billion into a Singapore expansion. SK Hynix is dropping $14.6 billion on a new HBM plant in South Korea, plus nearly $4 billion for advanced packaging in Indiana, which brings some of that vital supply chain back to the US. They are literally throwing historic amounts of cash at this problem across the globe.
But when we map this out on a timeline, a really hard truth emerges. You simply cannot buy time. In 2024 and 2025, the massive investments were made and the long-term agreements were signed. Right now, in 2026, the shortage is hitting its absolute peak, and HBM capacity is 1,000% sold out, completely tapped. Because actually building and outfitting these highly complex new fabrication plants takes 2 to 3 years, the earliest possible relief won't even arrive until 2027. Throwing billions of dollars at the problem today will not manufacture a single extra chip tomorrow.
Section 5. The cybersecurity hardware threat.
Now, this final domino is arguably the most dangerous of them all. The fallout from this bottleneck extends way beyond just expensive smartphones or delayed car manufacturing. It is escalating into a very genuine threat to national security and critical infrastructure. Because the hyperscalers are essentially eating up almost all the available semiconductors, security hardware manufacturers are starving. The companies that build the physical firewalls, the intrusion detection systems, the secure routers that keep our network safe, they simply cannot get the chips they need. This means absolutely critical IT and operational technology upgrades are being dangerously delayed, leaving any organization that relies on on-premises hardware deeply, deeply vulnerable.
So the crucial point is this figure, $145 billion. According to JP Morgan's analysis, if a widespread, nationwide cyber attack were to hit the US today, the sudden, frantic need to replace and upgrade all that compromised infrastructure would unleash an estimated $145 billion in unexpected chip demand. And it would be hitting a market that is already running at 100% capacity and is totally sold out until 2027. Think about that for a second. We literally do not have the physical hardware available to recover quickly from a major cyber event.
And that leaves us with this final, provocative thought. Is the AI revolution moving faster than the physical world can actually support? We've managed to build this incredible, limitless digital future in our minds and in our software, but right now we are crashing hard into the very real physical limits of manufacturing, supply chains, and global infrastructure. It's an incredibly fragile balance, and one that's going to define the global economy for the next several years. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it brought some real clarity to the massive structural shifts happening right beneath our digital feet.